Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. Now we have an update from Fabrizio Romano regarding the Rodrygo situation, and then we'll also be talking about the latest on Eze and Madueke. Do these deals affect each other, or is there actually a chance that you could get all three? Now let's start with Rodrygo, and this is what Fabrizio Romano's had to say. Direct meeting for Rodrygo's future will take place next week as Real Madrid are open to letting him leave. So we've always asked ourselves the last couple of weeks, does Rodrygo want to leave Real Madrid? Do Real Madrid actually want to sell him at all? But he's not started the last 5 games in the Club World Cup, and yesterday, even when they were losing, he did not come on at all, not even for 1 minute. So that is not someone who's in their plans. They're preferring the players like Gonzalo Garcia and other youngsters in the team. Real will leave the final decision to the Brazilians. So for Real Madrid, they're open to letting him go. Now it's going to be all about Rodrygo. Rodrygo won't join Al Nassr, never a topic or even a negotiation, despite reports. Full focus on Europe. So at least we know 2-3 different things from this. One, we know that Madrid are open to letting him go, so that is good. If you want Rodrygo, you can actually talk with Real Madrid. I think Rodrygo would want to leave. I don't think there's any way Rodrygo would want to stay. And there's a World Cup coming up next year. And he literally does not even come on at all. Like when they start with Mbappe and Bellingham and Vinicius, they can bring in Adagula from the bench. They can bring in Diaz from the bench. They can now start to bring on Gonzalo Garcia from the bench. There's another player that they've signed. So they have a lot of different options ahead of Rodrygo, and he doesn't feature at all, not even for 2 minutes off the bench. Whether they're losing, whether they need some attacking subs, he just doesn't come on. So he's not high on their list at all. It will be a better decision for him to leave. That is just how it should be. Now, will he come to Arsenal? That's the other question. Now, at least we know the competition of Saudi Arabia is out. It doesn't look like he's going to go there. If a player is interested to go to Saudi Arabia, that is basically done for you. A player like Rodrygo, the team would offer like 100 million and they would give him like 500,000 per week, and that is it for you. But if the player is not interested to go there, then you definitely have a chance of getting him. But if he wants to stay in Europe, we are still not the only ones. We've been hearing that, the moment Rodrygo agrees to leave Real Madrid, maybe a Man City will come in for him, maybe a Liverpool will come in for him. But there's also teams like Bayern Munich who've been mentioned. There's also teams like PSG who've been mentioned as well. Now, we are the ones that have done more talks with him. We've done more negotiations with him, according to reports. Andrea Bata has talked to Rodrygo a couple of times. We've talked to Real Madrid a couple of times and told them, listen, if Rodrygo becomes available, this is the player that you want to start for us on the left wing. That's the other thing. He wants to play as a left wing, and that is what we are currently looking for. And he doesn't want to really play as a right wing, and that is where he's been used as at Real Madrid when he starts or when he comes on. And last season, the number of games he started in La Liga, less than 10. The games that he played more than 90 minutes, less than 10 as well. So he just doesn't feature in games for Real Madrid at all this past season. The previous season, before Mbappe came in, he was playing as their striker up front, and he was delivering the goods. But the past season in this Club World Cup, we've seen that is not in the plans. He thought that with Xabi Alonso coming in, maybe it's going to be different from Ancelotti, but nope, it's actually worse. He doesn't even come on now at all. He doesn't play at all. And considering there's a World Cup coming up and those positions that he's trying to play, there's players like Rafinha and Vinicius and Richarlison and Martinelli, all of these players, Joao Pedro, all these players will be, vying for those positions. You have to be featuring for your club for you to get a chance, because Ancelotti is the same guy that hasn't been picking him in the league for Real Madrid. So now as the Brazilian coach, there's no guarantee he's going to pick him now for Brazil. So he has to prove himself. Now, do we have a chance of buying him? We were told in terms of wages, he would want a lot of wages, maybe even become the highest paid player at Arsenal. But as I've always said, to get a player like Rodrygo, to get players like this that are going to improve your team right away and improve a position that you really want to be improved, you're going to have to pay the money. You're not going to pay 50,000 a week for Rodrygo and buy him for 40 million. That is not going to be the case. You're going to have to splash money. That's why I've actually been happy that saving money on players like Nogard, paying 10 million for him and paying 5 million for Kepa. I was hoping that would allow us to, to buy these players that we really need. And those are players like Rodrygo and players like Gyökeres. Those are the players that we really need to pay a lot of money for, because those are the positions that we need to improve. Now, are we actually going to end up paying that 70 million for Rodrygo, or are we going to be strapped for cash now? Because right now, we've made a bid for Madueke. We've made a 50 million bid for Madueke. Team News and Ticks reported that it is believed that Arsenal's bid for Noni Madueke was worth an initial 40 million, with the further 10 million add-on. So that is what you were not told yesterday. We were just told it's a 50 million package by Fabrizio, but Timmy's and Tix has confirmed that it's 40 million plus 10 million in add-ons later on. So it's still a 50 million package, but right now you'd need to pay 40 million. Now Chelsea have not accepted that yet. They might not accept. They might try to close to 60. I don't know if Arsenal is going to go to that point. Now there's a lot of things that could happen here. One that could be great if we get all of them. If Arsenal, after getting Madueke, they're still able to get Eze, Gyökeres, and Rodrygo, I think fans will be like, whatever. We got 3 players that are really big, are going to improve our team, and they're free to add another player that even if you're not sure about, let's just see how it goes. That's the fast way it could go. Get all of them. Number 2, maybe getting Madueke affects us and we're not able to get Rodrygo. That would not be a great situation, especially imagine if we give Chelsea that 50 million and then they go and use it to buy Rodrygo. That would not be great. That would not be great. Number 3, something that could be happening right now. Maybe Arsenal thought Rodrygo not be available and they decided to make a bid for Madueke. But now that Rodrygo might become available, maybe Arsenal decide to, hold fire on the Madueke deal and try and get Rodrygo fast. That could also happen. But it's really difficult to predict how it's looking right now and what the direction will go right now, because all of those situations are possible. But we made a 40 plus 10 million bid for Madueke. They say that he's the cheapest that you could get out of all those, the likes of Gordon and Lookman. He is the cheapest out of all of those, yes, but if we are told Rodrygo is going to cost like 60, 65 million, are Arsenal going to, back out of this deal, especially if Chelsea say, we want 55 million and we want 50 million up front and then the 5 million in bonuses, all that could happen. So let's see what happens with these deals. They said Madueke and Rodrygo. Now I'm confident you're going to get Gyökeres, 90% confident. I would say I'm 65% confident you're going to get Eze. The Madueke deal is looking like it's going to happen. But for Rodrygo, I feel like the Madueke deal might affect it. So I'm not too sure if you're able to get both Madueke and Rodrygo, especially because they're telling us Madueke might play as a left winger. He might be a Saka backup. There's Martinelli still in the team. There's Trossard still in the team. And there's obviously still... if we buy Rodrygo, that will be 4 players who can play there. That is a lot. I don't think that will be possible, and also in terms of wages, unless Arsenal buy all of them and then they decide to sell Martinelli. So that has also been spoken about. We've been told that if Arsenal get a big winger, by David Dunstan, he's told us if we get a big winger like Rodrygo, then a player like Martinelli might end up being sold. So that is also a possibility. So in terms of the winger situation, hopefully get it sorted out before preseason. But at the moment, there's a lot that is happening. Now let's go to the next update, and that is on Jordan Davis, who says, speaking to those closest to Noni Madueke, Sunsport has been told, despite reported doubts, the player has a top mentality, is desperate to play with and against the best at the highest level, and would relish the chance to fight for a starting spot at Arsenal. So obviously, all of this came from... all the things that have happened the last 2 years. There's the time that they were fighting for a penalty with Nicholas Jackson and Palmer, and then they were like, these players are not disciplined. And then last season, he was left out of the team twice, once because Maresca said he was poor in terms of training, so he left him out of the squad. And then the second time, he said it's just a tactical decision. I've left him out, or decided to leave him out. So that will, I really like that at Arsenal. Will the rest of the team like that at Arsenal? Because we've been very harsh in terms of stuff like that. I'm sure Ted doesn't like arguing with players and player attitude and all that. But Jordan Davis says that is not the truth. He has top mentality and is desperate to play with and against the best at the highest level, and would relish the chance to fight for a starting spot at Arsenal. So interesting, though. I'm still unless he's been promised a left side role, because I've always wondered why he wants to come and be a backup for Saka when there's a World Cup coming up, and Saka is the one that uses that same position, plays in that same position against him at England, and Bowen and Palmer and this guy. So as Palmer is playing for Chelsea, as Bowen is playing for West Ham, as Saka is starting games for Arsenal, this guy will be on the bench. Madueke will be on the bench unless he's been promised a left-sided role. So if he wants to go to the World Cup, personally for me, I felt like maybe he should have gone to a Brentford if Boemo left, or Newcastle if they didn't buy an Elanga, or now that Elanga's left Nottingham Forest, maybe go to a team like that even on a 1-year loan and then see how it goes after the World Cup. And then after the World Cup, you can if Arsenal still are interested or Chelsea are interested in keeping you, then you can make that decision. But hey, I don't, because also we've been told that there's no improvement in terms of the wages. Is going to get the same that is getting at Chelsea. So it's a bit of a weird deal for us to even go and make that 50 million bid package right away. Now, what about Eze? Now, according to Ben Jacobs, Arsenal expected to approach Crystal Palace to formally discuss Eberechi Eze. Palace attacker still high in Arsenal's thinking, as revealed. It follows positive talks with players camp as they separate to Noni Madueke talks. That is confirmed by Ben Jacobs. This is separate, as and Madueke all separate from each other. We expected to still make an approach for Crystal Palace, to Crystal Palace. So that is great news. Again, Madueke, the links to Madueke have not made Arsenal fans happy at all. I think maybe there's like a 5% in the fan base that are happy with this one. Some believe it's okay to get a backup for Saka. Some believe he's actually a good player, so fair enough. But the problem would be, for me, I've said I'm going to wait until we get all the business done to make a judgment on Andrea Berta's transfer window. If you end up getting Eze and you still end up getting players like Gyökeres before preseason, you're allowed to get whoever else you want. That is absolutely fine. I think it doesn't affect it being a 10 out of 10 window if you still end up getting all these other guys, especially Eze, a former Arsenal player who wants to join us. Crystal Palace might not be included in the European position, in the European competition because of Lyon also being there. So there's something going on there. So they might actually be removed from participating in the Europa League. So if that happens, are they more open to selling Eze? Do they need that money? Are they in a tough financial position? Are we in a very, very good financial position? Because we've been told over the last couple of years we've earned money from Champions League. Obviously, we've sold players like Ramsdale and Smith Rowe and Ket and all these guys. And last time we didn't spend a lot of money in terms of transfers. Merino's like 20-something million. Calafiori is the most expensive one. Sterling on loan, Neto on loan. So we didn't really spend a lot of money last season. And we didn't sign anyone in January. So are we actually in a very good financial position where we can actually spend like 300 million? That will be very interesting. Also, Ed Aaron says Arsenal are expected to step up their attempts to sign Eberechi Eze. Arsenal are planning to make contact with Crystal Palace chairman Steve Parish to discuss a potential move, although he's unlikely to consider any offers below the 67.5 million release clause. So that has been reported by Ed Aarons. Also want to pay less than the release clause because they want to, divide it in installments and all of that. But maybe Crystal Palace wants the entire fee up front. For me, as they would 100% improve our team immediately. As I said, I wanted us to get 3 attackers, a striker, left wing, and then either backup for Saka or an attacking midfielder. And Eze is a player who can play as a left wing, he can play as a 10, he can play as an 8. He'll allow us to, rest Odegaard. He'll give competition to Odegaard when we're playing against low block teams, which is majority of the season, as we saw last season. We are able to have both Eze and Odegaard on the pitch at the same time. So this would be such a good signing for us. This would be top-notch signing for us. So I have no problem with that, spending that 67 million on him and 60 million on Gyökeres. Those are players that are going to improve your team, and we've never really spent that much money on attackers over the last 6-7 years. So why not do it this time? Why not improve our attacking? Because that is the position that we really need to compete with Liverpool, compete with Man City. We've been seeing how PSG play and how those teams play in the Champions League. If you're going to compete with those guys, you have to have an attacking options. They're able to bring Bakal off the bench. They see Redoué off the bench. Sometimes Dembele is coming off the bench. He didn't even play in the group stage at all. All that is, you have to have a very good squad and a good bench as well, and good competition amongst the squad. So that's the latest on all of that. Rodrygo, Madueke, Eze, could we actually end up getting all 3 of them done plus Gyökeres? That would be a surprise, but let's see how it goes. So let me know what you make of that. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check out the live show as always, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.